Alright everybody, it's time to go over some more character balance changes coming at the end of April for Street Fighter V. So today we're going to go over Ken. His patch notes are actually pretty short, but there is one key change that I want to talk about in depth. He also received the universal uppercut changes, which I've already made a video going over that. So let's get started. So the big change is Ken's Thunder Kick. That's his forward and hold down hard kick. They changed the recovery on block from -2 to -4. So Ken's forward hard kick overhead will now be punishable on block. So this of course is a nerf, but how bad exactly is it? Well, in Season 1, Ken's forward hard kick, Thunder Kick, was already -4 on block, so it already was punishable in Season 1. But recently, in Season 2, it has been changed to -2 on block, making it now safe against even the fastest normal attacks. The biggest change, however, is the advantage on hit has now been changed to +2 on hit from 0. Now, this might not sound like a big deal, but it definitely is. Ken can now combo from his forward hard kick overhead if it hits his opponent when they're crouching, because it actually becomes +3 on hit since it hits them meaty. Now this obviously is a very common scenario since usually the opponent will get hit by this because he was crouching in the first place. It's an overhead attack. I should also mention, to be fair, that Ken can't do this on every single character in the game. Some characters such as Birdie, Zangief, and even Urian, you're still only +2 if you hit them when they're crouching because they are taller characters. So of course I'll give you guys some examples here. The first thing to keep in mind is that Ken doesn't have any 3-frame light attacks, but he does have 3-frame special attacks. So his light uppercut is 3 frames, and his light tatsu is 3 frames. And also don't forget, this has to be done on the opponent when they're crouching, which is most of the time anyways in a real match. But it's +3 instead of +2 when they're crouching. So let's test this out. I'll do a light uppercut afterwards. As you'll see, it does 2 hits. Or I'll do a light tatsu afterwards. And then that combos as well. And this of course leads into a lot of damage. I can go right into super, for example. You guys gotta remember that this is rare in Street Fighter V. Just normally doing an overhead attack without some kind of setup or making it hit meaty as they're getting hit off the ground and just converting a super like that. That's pretty crazy. You could also do something like this. Use 1 meter. Does a lot of corner carry there. You can even get more in the corner. You can go right into the super. Like this. And that works as well. You can also, in V-trigger, you could get a little bit more damage as well. So we do something like this. So it becomes even scarier. You guys get the idea. Now, speaking of setups, if you happen to land a counter hit with this thing, you're even more plus. So if you set something up like the opponent's getting up off the ground, or maybe he's mashing a button or something, that's pretty practical. You can go a back medium punch afterwards, or a standing light kick or something. So you can do something like this. Or you can do something like this. So there's a lot of combo potential with this. So Ken having this overhead net's such a huge reward if it hits, but also at the same time being safe on block on top of that, has definitely caught Capcom's attention once they saw this in action in real matches. There's also a ton of other things to consider about this overhead, especially if you have your opponent in the corner. For one, you could just go into a feint with this overhead, and then go right into a low instead if you think your opponent's going to block up. You can just do nothing if you want to go right into a throw. And speaking of throws, did I mention Ken's got throw loops? So there's a ton of other things your opponent has to worry about on top of this really damaging overhead. This scenario happens very often too, since Ken has very good corner carry on a lot of his combos and specials. So Capcom making this -4 on block but keeping its combo potential seems like a compromise without nerfing it too hard. For one, most overheads are -6 on block in the game right now. Most of these overheads you can't combo afterwards, yet can be punished harder than Ken's overhead after April. You also might argue that Ken's overhead is slower than normal. In fact, in Season 2, Capcom made it slower to 26 frames now, which is the same as Chun-Li's overhead, her down forward medium kick. Ryu or Nash's forward medium punch overheads are 22 frames startup for comparison, so it is a little slower. So we can definitely spin in circles debating on how to balance this. You could say Chun-Li's overhead is slow, but safe on block. And you could also say that Ken's overhead is a hard strength overhead that does more damage. Hell, You can also say that Ken's overhead can still be safe on block if you make it a meaty, but yeah, you guys get the idea. Let me know what you guys think about all of this. So my final verdict on Ken on these changes alone is overall nerfed. So Ken will still have his wild corner game since his throw loops remain untouched, but his opponent can now punish him if he reads correctly on a blocked forward hard kick. And Ken players might think twice now before using it when they're really low on health. Capcom obviously wanted to even out the risk and reward, balance the scales a bit on this overhead attack. So after this change, I wonder where Ken will end up. I honestly think right now, Season 2 Ken is somewhere, I'd say, in the top 10 region. I personally think he's the best Shoto of the three. But after this change, coming in April, and Akuma getting a slight buff to his HP, I'm really curious on where he will land after these changes. So that's a wrap, guys. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully you guys found this informative. And let me know what you guys think about this Ken change. Do you think it's warranted? Do you think it's a big deal? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, guys, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, especially if you're new, as of course I'll be going over more character balance changes in the future. So, take care, everyone.